How much is that in the screen?
Who cares?
I'm just saying.
That's all right.
Trying to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Hey, we're on Facebook.
Hey, we're on Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
Check out the banner. Pretty sweet. Took some collaborating to do that.
All right, let's share this motherfucker.
All right, how do I? Never mind. Liking and commenting as.
Liking and commenting as myself.
There we go.
There we go. I want to make sure I put it up on the tweeter.
You got it on Twitter?
I'm about to.
All right.
Okay, so we have quite a bit to get to here in the show. I'm going to get a few more minutes here to get a couple more people on.
So now we're sitting here in silence. What are we going to talk about today?
I was updating the Twitter. I'm sorry. I was updating.
I don't want somebody to log in and be like, look at these jackholes sitting here.
Yeah,
What a bunch of bums.
Yeah, bums. Okay, so we have a lot to get to here on the show today.
Big week.
Yeah,
Big week.
Yeah, a monster week.
And it gets big. It just keeps getting bigger. Every day makes it bigger.
We were originally going to lead the show off with the officers' celebration of the Cleveland Browns going 0-16, but the Bengals just can't get out of their way and can't get out of our way. So that's going to be a big topic here. We'll talk some NFL coaching changes. We'll also go through the wild card round of the playoffs and also talk of the retirement of a former Bengal. We'll debate his legacy. If you're aware of Cincinnati in the area, you'll know who we're talking about. I'm still a little under the weather, and officers getting it now.
Yeah.
The finalists for the Hall of Fame class have been announced. I think there were 15 of them. We're just going to go through and basically just say, will they make it this year or not? And then a lot of college football to get to. An unreal game between Georgia and Oklahoma. We'll talk about that. The Alabama steamrolling of Clemson, which none of us saw coming. And, of course, at the end of the show, as always, we will have Mr. Adam Kieft with his Fumblegate Fatty Kicker of the Week. And it's a good one.
Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. It was a good one. And this one was on lock this week. Hey, Chris Williams says, what up?
What up? Cheerio. That's my guy, Cheerio.
Is that Cheerio is a nickname?
Huh? That's Cheerio is his nickname. That's my guy,
okay.
Cheerio.
I don't know. That's your friend.
Cheerio like the cereal?
Yeah, like Cheerio like the cereal. That's his nickname.
Paul says drink a champagne of beers and all will be better.
That's
I got one better for you, Paul. Bourbon.
As opposed to hashtag send me whiskey.
Well,
it is bourbon and whiskey.
Paul's my bourbon buddy.
I should like Coach Bono's wife to watch.
Yeah, so when we get going here, these two, the officer and Adam Kieft, they're gonna really go into detail about the Marvin Lewis situation. I wrote a longer piece and put it on the Fumblegate Facebook page yesterday, and so I'm gonna leave my thoughts there, and you can go back and read those as you please. So it'll be the officer and Kieft doing most of the talking there. It also saves my throat. Sorry, Mom. I don't feel good. Okay, but as we're going through this, please keep the comments coming. The officer and Kieft will be checking those out while we're going here. We'll be interacting with you as much as we can. Any comments? If you have any questions as well that you want one of the guys here to answer, or myself if you'd like, or with the whole Marvin Lewis situation, Adam Kieft. Adam Kieft played for the guy. Mr. Michael Hearn, good to have you on there. The comments don't necessarily need to be clean. We're not going for an NC-17 rating on here, but it's informal.
The comments don't have to be clean. If we read it out on here, we'll probably clean it up a little bit.
And Michael is a broadcaster who I've worked with before, and he is from the northeastern Ohio area.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, you see? Yeah, the Bengals are the Browns of Southern Ohio. That's
nobody is the Browns of anything but the Browns.
This is the now that's a dirty comment. Very good, Keith. All right, so with that, we are originating. Hi there, Don.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah,
the voice of the CMU Chippewas.
Oh, nice. Hi, Don. How are you doing?
What's up, Don?
The voice of the Chippewas. Wow.
Yeah, it's a fellow broadcaster.
How about that, Don? If you need if you ever need to take a sick day, call me. I am a broadcaster. These two can vouch for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Georgetown Tigers.
Yes. So if you ever need a day off, sick day, or if the Chippewas are in this area, and Kara likes the setup. Different every week.
Thanks, sis. Appreciate it.
We're still working out the.
Paul's got a good question here, and we'll address this during the show. Correct in stating the Bengals need to support money and time working on their offensive line.
Oh yes.
So
yes,
and
we will
also,
definitely
we will touch
address that.
We will touch on that, especially given the fact that they're now looking for a new offensive line coach. All right. So with that, everyone that is watching, we do appreciate you tuning in. Here we go. You gentlemen ready?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Let's roll. Welcome to the Fumblegate Podcast, and we're glad to have everyone on board with us on all the platforms, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, and also for those that have decided to tune in and watch the broadcast live on Facebook.
You left the same one out again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and also as well, we've started to upload these Facebook Live videos to YouTube, so you can go on YouTube, search for Fumblegate, subscribe to us on there as well. Follow us on the social media, at Fumblegate, at FGP Cop, at Fumblegate Fatty on the Twitter. We have a sweet banner for those on Facebook Live. You can see that there. Fumblegate Podcast at gmail.com. We're going to get right into
real quick for those of us that are, or for those that are watching. I just need to point out that
Sure.
our table is at a V here. So while I am a little bit shorter than you guys,
I should have said that.
Yes, I am not the tiny little person that
Short guy
that it appears.
Yeah.
I'm 6 foot tall.
Yeah,
All
Yeah,
right.
I should sit
media
in the
guy.
middle.
You should be. I'm farther away. This is just an optical illusion, right?
Your media guide 6
I'm
foot
just trying
tall.
to make my hands look bigger.
Sorry,
Media guy 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
I think our media guy said I was 6'2", actually.
Somebody fibbed on that one.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. We were initially going to lead this show off with the officers' celebration of the Cleveland Browns going 0-16 this season, and we're still going to get to that here in just a little bit. But the Cincinnati Bengals just keep making news, and who knows if it's a good thing or not. It's up for debate, really. So with that said, yesterday on Facebook, or this week on Facebook, I should say, I posted a rather lengthy piece on my thoughts on the Marvin Lewis being signed to a 2-year extension to remain in Cincinnati. Now, changes are coming about to the staff. Paul Gunther, we understand, is moving on. Offensive line coach, longtime offensive line coach Paul Alexander is moving on, which came as a surprise to Adam Kieft here. So I'll really turn this over to you guys here because my thoughts are already out there on the Fumblegate Facebook page for anyone to read. So, gentlemen, just your reaction in general, I guess, to the decision to retain Marvin Lewis for another 2 years.
I think I've sat at this table or at some collection of however we've sat at previous episodes, and I think I stated repeatedly that Marvin could keep his job with a 7-9 record.
I think most recently though you did get on board with.
Well,
me
when the
2
announcement
weeks ago.
came out from Schefter and said that he was not coming back, I said that's fine. I understood that, but at least I have been saying all season long that 7-9 keeps his job, 8-8 keeps his job, 6-10 might even keep his job, and turns out 7-9 does keep his job. And to me, it's as frustrating as it is to Bengals fans and maybe most football fans in general. I think it's a testament to the Brown family and their unwillingness to spend money, because this is the easy way out. It is stay with what you know. Don't go out and look for a high-end candidate. I think continuity. I think any head coaching job that was going to be, or any head coach that was going to be available, the Browns were not going to be able to woo them with their money because they weren't going to make a large offer to anyone. And they're not willing to do a coaching search to take a flyer on a young guy like a Sean McVay. And I think that's what we learned here is that it's easier to just stick with what you know. And one thing that, as the other changes have started to come out, I think one thing that happened in that meeting with the Browns is they really realized Marvin had to convince them that he gets more control over something. Because personnel changes that have already happened indicate that Marvin has more control over something. Because Paul Alexander has been there longer than any other coach in that locker room.
23 years.
Yeah, and he always used to joke in our meetings that he would always be in that office. So I doubt that that's a mutual decision. I think Marvin got his way with that one. I think he got his way with some of the other personnel decisions that may happen going forward. So maybe it is a good sign. Maybe he's getting more control of his team, and now it's something that is positive for the Bengals in the long run. You're not firing up your fan base with this at all. You have alienated any fans that you had left that were on the fence, have now jumped off.
Real quick point, and officer, I'll let you take over. To that point, they were 31st in attendance this season. The only team they finished ahead of was the LA Chargers, and the LA Chargers were playing in a 30,000-seat stadium. You go back to, and I mentioned this in my Facebook blog post, if you will, they had more than 10,000 empties for the Monday night game against Pittsburgh. That should tell you right there where the fan base is at with this, with the Marvin Lewis as head coach. I would think that they can't even sell out or come close to selling out for the Pittsburgh game, which for years under Marvin was a lock.
Well, part of that, in my opinion, is Cincinnati fans being fickle to a point.
They're fair weather.
100%.
Now, hold on now. No team has lost more games in a decade than the Bengals did in the 90s. So it's hard to throw out fair weather when we have been just brutalized by the Brown family.
But here, to that point, here's what I think, and I talked about this on the Huge Show this last week, is that I think Bengals fans forget that, and all they see is the last 15 years with Marvin and the up and down with that. But they kind of forget how good they have it or have had it with Marvin in the past. And, 7 trips to the playoffs in the last 15 years versus 37 in their first 35. And that's one thing that, people tend to forget because he hasn't won a playoff game, how they forget the 90s when they were awful. They were just deplorable. They were the Browns of the 90s. Yeah. And people forget that. And that's one thing that I think maybe it'll take when Marvin's actually gone. And if they have 2 terrible seasons these next 2 years, it changes the legacy too. But if he has some decent seasons these next 2 years and makes the playoffs or something, maybe people remember, hey, he wasn't so bad. But the Bengals fans tend to forget what happened before he got here. Because before he got here, they were atrocious.
Oh, I mean, so I grew up in the 90s, so that's my childhood is the Bengals sucking.
Yeah.
And so 2003, I remember being so excited for the defensive coordinator of the greatest maybe defense ever to come in and take over and change things in Cincinnati, and he did. He got as far as he's going to get it. It's stale. I actually like Paul Alexander, but I'm happy to see him go. They need new blood in there.
Yeah.
And all that said, I think Marvin is a good figurehead. I don't think he's a good coach. I mean, we have 15 years worth of just gaffes, clock mismanagement, timeout mismanagement. All these. I think he would be a good front office guy, and people have been saying this for years, and I really think it's true. I think he's able to evaluate talent and everything, and scheme wise, he's good. I don't think he's a good game day coach. And they just needed new blood. When we all thought he was going to go, I was so excited.
Yeah, Bengals fans in general, for those of you who don't live in the Cincinnati area that don't realize how elated Bengals fans were with that news.
Well, it was just to that point we've talked about before when Schefter broke the news that it was likely that Marvin was going to move on. We all kind of came up with a bunch of different names to possibly take over for him here. And there wasn't really one consensus name. It was a lot of names here and there. And I think that speaks to the louder point of the fan base is somebody, anybody with a fresh voice to come in here. And some of those changes, Marvin said it in a press conference this week after the extension was announced that Mike Brown didn't show up for, of course, that, we're starting from scratch. Well, okay, you let the defensive coordinator go. hallelujah, that's the one silver lining in this. But you keep the offensive coordinator of the team that finished last in the league on offense, and Bill Lazor.
Total offense.
Yes, total offense. They were only one of two teams that didn't have a 400-yard offensive game all season long as well. I understand the letting go of Paul Alexander because the offensive line is what it was, and Paul Alexander also had the title of run game coordinator, and the run game
he became the GOAT for that. I mean, he was
scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder, and Adam, you may be able to speak to this some, having spent time in that building. Do you see a possibility where Mike Brown concedes to Marvin Lewis some free agency moves? Because it seems like at this point the only move, especially for that offensive line, the only way to really fix it right now is to go in free agency and get someone because the draft has not worked.
No, and I don't think they're high enough now. If one of those two kids from Notre Dame is there at 10, or are they at
12.
10, 12? And one of those two kids from Notre Dame is there at 12, which I don't foresee that happening. I think they're surefire picks. You got to take them. But the only problem with having personnel decisions, if indeed Marvin does have more, say in personnel decisions, is Mike Brown still writing the check. And we've seen Mike Brown does not spend money on free agents. He doesn't. He gets guys on rookie contracts that usually leave in the long term, or he gets guys at the end of their career. He doesn't go out and get hot names in free agency. It doesn't happen.
I don't have a problem with that because it's never worked out for Washington Redskins, who do it more than anybody.
No, I agree, but it has worked for teams like the New England Patriots who bring in free agents that.
Yeah, but they were winning and getting guys.
I mean, that helps. You want guys to come.
Well, look how it worked out for the LA Rams signing Andrew Whitworth. Look how it worked out for the Detroit Lions signing Marvin Jones.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying you can't sign free agents. I don't ever want the top guy out there. But
that's fine.
But you have to go out and get complementary pieces to your offense, which right now would be offensive linemen.
Marvin addressed this in his most recent press conference, though. Talked about going out and getting free agents. And what we saw in the last time this happened, I think it was 2010 or 11, when Mike Brown seceded a little power to Marvin, and you could tell in the product. Maybe that was one of the things that they talked about and why he addressed that in his press conference.
Well, the moves, I don't know if the moves are going to be made. Like I mentioned on my on the blog post on the Fumblegate, when's the last movie made in free agency?
Name it.
The one that came to mind to me, the most notable one was, and I thought of it at the time, was he's actually spending money. He gave Antonio Bryant 4 years and $28 million, and then cut him 3 months later in training camp.
Yeah.
Antoine Odom. That was
he wasn't. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And he worked out for a year.
We're going back 7 years? To
yes,
get to that?
Yes, that's the thing.
But again, you're bringing in guys that
in recent years you're getting Kevin Minter and Eric Winston.
Yeah.
Eric Winston twice.
And you've released him, and he's been cut by the Bengals and re-signed by them. Nothing against Eric Winston, but that's not a big splash. You're not going out like, oh, look we got Eric Winston. Oh, we went back and got Andre Smith at a discount because he's out of shape again. Who would have thought? Well, they don't go out and get guys.
And the offensive line is it's in shambles. They have to get at least one or two starting caliber free agents. Along the offensive line, plus address it in the draft.
But the problem with that is, though, you've seen where the market's gone with offensive linemen.
Oh, it's gone through the roof.
For example, Kevin Zeitler getting $12 million a year to go to Cleveland.
He is one of the better guards in the league, and it is Cleveland.
He is.
They're going to have to overpay.
Yeah, and that's not even. And I credit them for doing that. That they're at least willing to try. That's the one thing I will say is sometimes they'll fork out money and perhaps overpay, but you can't say the same about Mike Brown. Yeah, he's not willing to pay, let alone overpay.
The Browns were like $80 million under the cap when they were making those deals too.
But you also have Andrew Whitworth. Mike Brown didn't want to guarantee a second year.
There's no excuse for that.
The second best lineman in the franchise history, and you don't think he's worth a second year on a contract.
The heart and soul and leader of the team, and had been since
possibly the best Bengal you've had in that locker room in years.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably since Carson Palmer left, he was the leader in that locker room since the time Carson Palmer left.
Yeah.
And you just let him walk for not guaranteeing a $5 million second year.
I just
it astonishes me. Good for him for making the playoffs.
It's so backwards to me how seemingly Mike Brown operates this, in that it's almost like it's telling the fans, you need to come here and then I'll spend money to give you better players.
No.
Whereas most owners...
He doesn't care if you come.
Well, what I'm saying is most owners would normally say, I'm going to try and make the best product on the field. And
try and get you to come.
Yes, to get you to come.
Yeah.
Whereas Brown's trying to entice you with, well, here's what I got. If you come, maybe I'll spend some more money, which obviously he's not going to do anyway. No. It's completely backwards to me. And it's just that therein lies the question that a lot of NFL people, not just Bengals fans, have is he committed to even winning, let alone not even trying to win a championship?
I don't know if he wants to, because it doesn't matter for him. Because at the end of the day, besides the home gate, his giant check that comes from the NFL from revenue sharing doesn't change. He gets a playoff check whether they make the playoffs or not. He gets a cut of everybody else's revenue whether they make the playoffs or not. So does it really matter? I don't think it does. But anyway, Marvin Lewis not going anywhere. We do have some coaches that are, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that have happened around the NFL here. One of them, I guess, kind of a surprise in that the Lions let go Jim Caldwell after a winning season.
Yeah.
In 9-7. You know, I'm not surprised by it, just because Caldwell has never really shown the ability as a head coach to kind of take his team to the next step.
He's a bit of a Marvin Lewis situation, albeit he's on a shorter leash apparently, because he's coached for teams with owners who have a little higher expectations.
But you also have the highest paid player in the league in Matt Stafford.
Yes.
At the quarterback spot. Yeah. And to be fair, Stafford doesn't exactly have a stellar record when it comes to postseason success either.
But the Lions have become a team that now expect more out of their franchise in recent years, and now that they have the highest paid player in the NFL, they want to see a return on that investment, and they felt Caldwell wasn't getting the job done there, and unfortunately for him, he no longer has the job.
See if he gets another shot at it. I'm not sure if he does. Chicago let John Fox go. I don't think that's a surprise there. It's amazing how quick of a precipitous fall he went down after Denver won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think also you called that one, didn't you? You picked him to get fired?
Yeah. Out in Arizona, maybe a bit of a surprise seeing Bruce Arians step aside and retiring. He's for health purposes and whatnot. Obviously, a great career.
Yeah,
he had a pretty darn good one.
He had a good run at it for sure.
Good run out there. Of course, he had the run in Indianapolis where he took over for Chuck Pagano while Pagano was undergoing cancer treatment.
That really is what got him the job in Arizona. Was taking that one season when Chuck Pagano was out.
Won Coach of the Year. So all the best to Bruce Arians in retirement. Speaking of Chuck Pagano, canned at Indianapolis. Not a shock there. We posed the question on the rundown whether Luck being out was kind of the nail in the coffin for him. I don't think it was, because this roster was going down the tubes for the last number of years.
It hurts not having your star player to make you competitive.
Right. Because he's one of those guys that makes everybody around him better.
Yeah, Luck makes
they are a bad team.
They are a bad team, but Luck makes a difference.
Yes.
He makes you more competitive with him under center.
So you also have the Giants, their positions open. Jim Schwartz, Eagles defensive coordinator, looked at right now as a favorite. The Raiders, it looks like they're going to hire John Gruden, possibly Paul Gunther as defensive coordinator. So I'll throw this out to you guys. Of those jobs that are open right now, in your mind, what's the best available to where you can step in as a new guy and win next season?
Oakland Raiders. I think so. I think they have the most talent. I think that the Oakland soon to be Vegas Raiders, but I think that you are built for success there. The ownership is willing to do what it takes to become a winner. Second, I would say the Lions, just because they're coming off of a winning season, despite not making the playoffs. They have been more competitive. They are building talent in Detroit too. I think the Lions and the ownership obviously is willing to invest the time and money into trying to improve their team as well. I think those two are the most appealing right now. John Gruden appears to be getting the Oakland job, so it's appealing. That one you're getting him to come out of the booth, so it must be appealing for a reason.
Yeah, for an ownership.
That actually, he's actually denied that wasn't part of the offer. Griefer found that out he denied that.
The talk is now that it's going to be something in the lines of like a 5-year deal, guaranteed at more than $10 million a year. Oh, wow, which kind of makes up for it. So. Yeah. Officer, your best job available.
I think they kind of fell apart this season, but I think the pieces are in place for the Giants to still be to step in with the right moves. And
does that include
Eli?
Yeah,
a little tweaking.
Is Eli Manning
does that include Eli
equation, or is he no longer there?
No, I keep Eli around. We've talked about this multiple times this year. In that, if you look at his numbers, Eli is no worse than he ever was. He's a little bit better than average quarterback.
He is what he is,
and he does well. He's done well in the playoffs a few times. But
hashtag Eli's fault.
Hashtag not elite.
Are you guys surprised? And we have a question coming in from Facebook, and you can always submit those to us on the Facebook and the Twitter. Question from Chris Williams: are you guys surprised that Jason Garrett is still able to keep his job in Dallas?
A little bit, mostly because of Jerry's expectations. I don't think he's necessarily doing a bad job in Dallas, particularly given the suspension. Tyron Smith being out really hurt them. But the expectations from Jerry Jones are really what kind of surprises me more. Is Jerry Jones really expects to win a Super Bowl every season. As an owner, that's what his expectation. And so the fact that Garrett really hasn't been able to overcome that, or kind of get over the hump and become a competitive playoff team, really does kind of surprise me. That playoffs. We'll talk this on a bit like that. Yeah, it is a bit surprising that he still has a job. A lot of people I read on we talked about it before, and Vance Joseph. I'm a bit surprised Vance Joseph still has a job, but then again, John Elway still has a job, and that's where
you noticed too with Denver though in that position they cleaned out like 7 or 8 assistant coaches.
They did. They cleaned out. And they fired their defensive coordinator during the season.
And it was Vance's first. He's only had 1 year. I think it's kind of a Cleveland Brown thing to do to not give a guy an opportunity to go in there.
But it is,
and I think with the injuries and everything, I think that Garrett got a pass this year. I think if the same thing happens next year, he probably goes. But I think he got a pass.
Interesting there, though, that and very well maybe it would point to injuries, the suspension, that Jason Garrett gets a pass from that, but Chuck Pagano does not from Jim Irsay.
Yeah.
Interesting how that works. So moving on to a job that is apparently not available for anyone to take, and this part was going to lead off the show before. That is the Cleveland Browns, who have decided they are keeping Hugh Jackson. He's their man, even after going 0-16. Changing GMs. The GM said it's the owner's call. Jimmy Haslam said,
"We're sticking with him.
Hugh's my guy." 0-16. They're going to have a parade up in Cleveland for it. I will willingly plug it, brownsparade.com, if you want to be up there. And apparently they're doing the route in a big zero.
Yes.
Parade route in a big circle to form a zero.
At this point, if you're a Browns fan, you can't do anything else but laugh.
You just have to embrace it.
You have to embrace it and get something out of the season.
This, we thought, was going to be sort of a belated Christmas present to the officer, because they finally did what we all thought they could do all season long, which is run the table. Well, after going 4-0 in the preseason, by the way.
Yeah. Which the Lions also did when they went 0-16.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And with that, this is maybe the ultimate version of
Cleveland. Yeah, and it's just funny the way this all has worked out for me, because if people, I know we only had like 3 listeners when we started doing this in the summer, and I was trashing Cleveland on the regular then, and then you were onto this before this. Yeah, and not just the Browns, the city in general.
Yeah.
But no, it's and now it's turned into this thing, and it's been great.
Taking a life of its own.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. And
it's a great.
And here we are.
This is the ultimate
culmination of the whole season.
Officer, the floor is yours.
All right, so playing against the Steelers backups with just under 2 minutes left in the game, the Browns have a 4th and 2 from the Steelers' 27-yard line, looking to keep the drive alive, and they can win. Kaiser, the Browns quarterback, looks as if he's about to get sacked. He escapes the pocket, and he again looks like he's making a really good play. He throws a strike to a wide open Corey Coleman, who drops it. Now 2 years ago, the Browns had the 2nd pick in the draft, and they could have taken Carson Wentz, a franchise quarterback, but they opted to trade back and draft Corey Coleman. So it seems fitting that this is the guy who seals the deal on the 0-16 season on what would have been a routine catch. The Browns go 0-16. Thank you, Corey Coleman. They're now tied for the worst team in history. Hey, Cleveland, it's okay. You went undefeated in the preseason. Thanks, Jason.
Hashtag preseason champs.
The alphabet officially has more W's than Cleveland this year.
It never gets old.
Right?
That's good.
There have been a number of things on social media that people could do on New Year's Eve when the ball dropped, such as starting the movie Die Hard at a specific time so that you could watch Hans Gruber fall off the Nakatomi Plaza
What you tried to do when your kids
instead of
ruined
watching the ball drop. Exactly, right. We had to watch cartoons.
Thanks a lot, kids.
Yeah.
Well, what I did was at 11:59 and 59 seconds, I started counting the number of wins the Browns had this season, and I was done right as the clock struck midnight. 2018 started off right.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go, Adam Kieft.
Thank you, Cleveland, for making my Cleveland segment so easy this year. And hey, there's always next year. Or more realistically, there's always next year's preseason.
That's good. So,
this has been your weekly installment of.
thank you.
Cleveland.
And just because their season's over, it doesn't mean we're going to stop this.
No, the fun doesn't end.
The fun doesn't
Cleveland's the city
end.
that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and baseball season will be coming up soon enough. I'm sure the officer can find some things that the Indians screwed up.
Wait. So Michael Hearn said Corey Coleman is going to drop into the parade. Was that a play on words? Drop?
I believe so.
Bump. Very,
Rim
very good.
shot.
So one part of the season, as I mentioned before, the Brown season's over, but other teams, they still get to play more because they actually qualified for the playoffs. Who knew?
Life goes on.
Yeah. So let's go. We'll go through the wild card round here, and we'll start off in the AFC here and kind of get everybody's quick thoughts on this and possibly a prediction as far as who moves on in the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans travel to Kansas City to take on the AFC West champion Kansas City Chiefs.
You know, the Chiefs won their last four going into it. I think Alex Smith finished with his best QBR of the season. Kareem Hunt led the league in rushing. I think Tennessee doesn't have a chance in this game, to be honest with you. I just think the Chiefs, despite the fact they struggled in the middle of the season, they were what some thought were the best team in the beginning of the season, struggled through the middle of the season, won their last four. They're on a hot streak going into the playoffs. I just think they're a better football team. I think in Kansas City, in Arrowhead, I think that's really what makes the difference at the end of the day. I think Kansas City wins the game.
Yeah, pretty much echoing those sentiments. They started off hot, they sagged in the middle, and they finished hot. They're doing well when you want to do well, and I think they're too much for Tennessee. I agree. I think Kansas City wins this running away.
I'm taking Tennessee simply because I picked them in the preseason.
You got to keep
sticking with them.
None of my teams are left.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sticking with them. I actually had Tennessee going to the AFC title game in my preseason prognostications.
We got two Chippewas.
Marcus Mariota, if you're going to show up at all the season, now would be the time. Throwing more interceptions and touchdowns on the year, I don't know if anybody's told you that's not a good thing. So get that turned around. It also, I can't totally trust Andy Reid in the playoffs. So, although
wild card round, I trust him a little more than the divisional or the championship game.
I'm still sticking with the Titans just because I picked them in the preseason.
You got to try.
Fair enough.
Realistically, I'm drifting your way, but I don't know what the Titans hashtag thing is, but that.
And shout out to my boy Parker Enger from the Chiefs too. He might join us on the show later this year.
There we go. Also in the AFC, the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. It feels weird to say that. They're taking on the Buffalo Bills, who, thanks to the Cincinnati Bengals, made the playoffs for the first time since 1999. And the greatest thing about that, since that has happened, is the fact that Buffalo fans have donated almost $250,000 to the Andy and Jordan Dalton Foundation.
Which is amazing.
How awesome is that?
In $17 increments, too.
Yes.
Most of them.
A lot of them.
Most of the donations are in $17 increments for the 17 years that they missed the playoffs.
Wow.
Which is even more astounding that there's that many. Almost $250,000 for charity for the Andy Dalton.
The Bills Foundation. The Bills franchise said they're sending the Bengals franchise a ton of wings. So good for them.
I wish I was still around.
Yeah,
I want to go back.
Hey, make a call.
Buffalo wings from Buffalo.
Yeah.
They gotta be.
No, not the ones
legit.
from those restaurants.
Right. No, the legit ones.
Yeah, the real Buffalo.
That's like a
wings.
cheesesteak from Philadelphia.
Absolutely,
the real deal. And I know a lot of Bengals fans were mixed feelings going to the last game against Baltimore? Do you want to just lose the game and improve your draft pick, but then you realize the other scenarios when you could screw the Ravens out of the playoffs? I think a lot of fans were happy.
Marvin Lewis. Wah, wah.
That's your booby prize.
So, with that, can Buffalo pull the upset in Jacksonville? They're the underdog, I think, going into this because Jacksonville's defense has been so good.
Yeah. God knows you just pulled an extra fan base. You got the Bengals fans behind you now because the Bengals fans have kind of jumped on the bandwagon because what the Bills fans did for Andy Dalton.
Outstanding Bills fans.
Yes,
good work.
Great job on you, Bills fans.
Bills Mafia, good work.
Great job, Bills Mafia. I want them to win. I don't see it happening. I think Jacksonville, Tyrod Taylor is just not a decent quarterback. But
Blake Bortles is?
No, but I trust him against the Bills defense versus Tyrod Taylor against Jacksonville's defense.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Buffalo.
I want them to win. 100%.
And so I never would have picked them, but I am now. So if they win, Buffalo fans, you can thank me.
And
you can send me wings, and you can send money to the Officers Kids Foundation. I'm okay with $17 increments.
I'm taking Buffalo as well, only to keep my scenario alive of New England and Tennessee playing in the championship.
Start knocking off the bigger teams.
Well, if Buffalo wins as a 6th seed, they go to New England, which means New England and Tennessee wouldn't meet until the AFC title game.
They're getting closer.
Yes.
Got to make the scenario work.
Again, it's probably not going to happen. I'm just trying to keep my scenario alive, so at least I can say, hey, I got 2 teams right. Into the NFC. The Atlanta Falcons head west to take on the LA Rams, and which should be, I think, a pretty good game. Maybe one of the better games of the wild card weekend between these two, because both these teams can score.
Yeah, I think it's going to be somewhat of a shootout. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game.
I think the winner gets in the 30s.
Yeah, I can see that. I hate to do it because it makes me nervous. I still trust the Rams. I still think the Rams have a balanced offense. I think Goff and Gurley really make a difference there. And more than anything, I want to see Andrew Whitworth win. I think he deserves it.
Yeah.
Just being a guy that I know, and I think he deserves it. It's tough because Matt Ryan has playoff experience and Goff doesn't. So it's hard because at some point in the playoffs, I do trust quarterbacks with experience because it's a different scenario, and you have to make decisions differently in the playoffs than you do in the regular season, and that's why this game makes me nervous. If it wasn't Matt Ryan under center for the Falcons, if you were playing a less experienced quarterback, I would have more confidence in the Rams. But I just feel like Matt Ryan. They made a run to make it into the playoffs. They're a pretty hot team right now, so it's one of those things that we'll see where it goes.
So you're taking the Falcons?
No, I'm taking the Rams. I just think
that whole thing made me
nervous. It makes me.
Yeah.
It's my nervous pick. It's my nervous pick.
Where's Ashley?
But I'm taking the Rams. I try and be as vague as possible because it's hard to be wrong.
Right. Yeah. That way next week you'd be like, oh, see.
I said the Falcons might win.
You're going to be vague. The sports teams are going to go out sportsing, and one team is sports better than the other sports team.
Whichever team scores more points will win. I'm picking the Rams.
I confidently take the Rams, and I don't think it comes down to Jared Goff. I think that Todd Gurley puts his team on his back, as he's done for most of the season, and runs them to victory. Catches out of the backfield them to victory.
Yeah, I think Gurley's too much for that Atlanta defense. And the Rams defense, by the way, is no joke under Wade Phillips, who once again proves he can build up a defense as good as anybody in the game at that defensive coordinator spot. I think the Rams just have a little too much on both sides of the ball. I just don't think Atlanta's got enough of a running game and enough of a defense, especially in the linebacking core, to keep up with Todd Gurley in that game. So, yeah, I've got the Rams moving on that one. Game down in the Bayou, which could be maybe the highest scoring of the weekend, but we'll see. The Carolina Panthers head into Nolens to take on the Saints, who came out of nowhere this season. We all thought for years, kind of like here in Cincinnati, the clock's ticking on Sean Payton.
Yeah. And Drew Brees.
Andrew Brees.
Drew Brees is damn near 48 years old now.
But this year with New Orleans, they figured out how to run the ball with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, who might be the rookie of the year. That's going to be a hell of a debate between him and Kareem Hunt, by the way.
It's going to be interesting.
And also, Sean Payton's figured out how to coach defense this season, because New Orleans' defense is pretty darn good. this season as well. I think that's too much for Cam Newton to try and do by himself. New Orleans moves on.
Yes, without a doubt. They are, like we said, they already beat them twice. That offense can go without a running game, and what Alvin Kamara has been able to do there is pretty impressive. I think New Orleans rolls.
I think New Orleans rolls too. They won the first 2 meetings this season, and I don't like Cam Newton. Hashtag punch face. If nothing else, hashtag punch face, and I think that New Orleans rolls. The hell with him. I'm so overseeing that guy's face on TV. I'm glad friggin' Winston's sitting at home now. I don't have to see him anymore.
But he gets to stick around and fight with Dirk Cutter next year. They're bringing him back only because they couldn't get Gruden.
Yeah.
All right. So
they're punch faces.
Punch faces abound. Maybe they'll both be in the playoffs next year. So with that, one of our final looks here at the NFL news was dropped this week that Carson Palmer has decided to call it a career after 15 seasons with the Cincinnati, Oakland, and Arizona. Finishes his career just over 45,000 yards in the top 15 in various statistical categories, completed 5 out of every 8 passes in his career. Adam, you played with him a number of years ago in Cincinnati, but thoughts on him?
Well, they were on the same team.
Well, he and I share a knee injury, by the way.
Oh, you share? Okay. So you share an injury. So thoughts on him and his legacy?
For Bengals fans, there's probably a bitter feeling about Carson Palmer just because of the way his career ended here in Cincinnati. But to me, he'll always be one of the nicest guys I met during my time in the NFL. I think he's a genius as a quarterback. I think he's a very, very good NFL quarterback. Obviously, his statistics kind of speak for themselves. He's top 15 in mostly important quarterback categories. I think he had a raw deal, and he overcame some really big injuries. He had 2 knee reconstructions, and that's really difficult, especially at the quarterback position, to be effective after the first one. Then again, after the second one, people kind of forget that 2005 season. He had what looked to be kind of an MVP caliber season back then, and if it weren't for Kimo von Oelhoffen, that season may have ended differently.
Slow crawling, cheat offing.
May have ended differently for the Bengals that season.
A lot of people thought the Bengals had a Super Bowl team that season.
Yeah, it's one of the things.
Well, the team they lost to went on to win it.
Yeah,
so.
And that's one thing that in the locker room and after that we talked about that. If Carson and the other stuff that happened in that game, if the Bengals win that game, the season could have been totally different. It could have ended in the Super Bowl.
You were there. You can say we. Yeah. Like we make fun of the people that say we didn't want it. You were there.
Well, again, I wasn't doing much besides.
But you were under contract.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that again I think his legacy here in Cincinnati is a bit tarnished because of the way it happened when he left, but. Again, he's one of the greatest guys that I met during my time in the NFL with the Bengals and so on. And, it's, the question that was posed, is he a Hall of Fame candidate given his numbers? Does he have numbers good enough to be a Hall of Fame candidate? I don't think necessarily he does, but I don't think a lot of people appreciate how good he actually was.
I think he could maybe at some point in his career or some point during the process maybe be a semifinalist.
He's going to be on a ballot. I mean, he's going to be on the ballot.
I'm saying he may make a semifinalist ballot, but I don't think he ever gets there.
No, because the time around when he's going to be going in, you look at other guys who are going to be on the ballots the same time as he is.
Well, he never really did much in the postseason.
No, he didn't. And he
Super Bowl.
He quietly had a very, very good career, and I think a lot of people will forget that down the line. But he's a great guy, and I'm happy for him in retirement.
As Levi Jones points out, that everyone forgets that Chris Henry got hurt on that same play too, and he was able to take the lid off of most defenses that year. And but those 2 injuries on one play was pretty crushing.
The Levi Jones.
He's watching the show right now.
Yes.
Give him a shout out.
Shout out. What's up, Levi Jones? Thank you for tuning in there.
Yeah, no, so Levi, and as I typed on here, we really miss you in Cincinnati. The O-line, we could.
He was a good one.
You want to come back?
We could use your skill set.
And by the way,
today.
By the way, Levi, you have an open invite anytime you want to appear on you want to come on the show.
Yeah, or call in or whatever.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
No, okay. So
anyway, officer, your thoughts on Carson Palmer?
So, is a lifelong Bengals fan, and Carson Palmer was my favorite player. He I had an autographed jersey that I had framed. It was. I loved Carson Palmer, and then when he left the way he did, I was as butthurt of a fan. I led the charge in butthurt. Like I just, I was furious, and it was more like a scorned girlfriend. Like what time heals all wounds. Looking back, I actually over the last couple of years, I get it. He was beat down by Mike Brown, and it happens. No, I wish him the best, and I don't think for basically what you said, Adam. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer because look at the other quarterbacks in his era. If you say who was the best quarterback from 2003 to 2017, it's never going to be Carson Palmer.
It's not
He's probably not in the top 5, unfortunately.
And again, when it comes time to voting, the guys who are going to be around him, the times that his name comes up, Drew Brees and Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, right. Eli Manning.
Yeah,
he's going to get lost in the shuffle.
That's 5 guys right there.
Yeah, he's a bit of lost in the shuffle given the other guys who are playing in the same era, but he quietly had a great career.
I hope to your point, officer, that more Bengals fans as it goes along will, like you said, time heals all wounds. Mm-hmm. I totally understood why he did what he did in retiring and trying to get his way out because of the way the organization
dysfunction in the front office, which we are still seeing to this day.
You say it better than I could there. Totally understood it. I think he's a guy that you could make the argument maybe didn't fully live up to all the expectations, especially given coming out of USC and given how good he was immediely coming in.
But he was a starter in the NFL for 14 years.
He was. I'm not discrediting that. I think to some degree, I think people maybe wanted more out of him because he's been so good. But he's always just been good. I don't think he ever really took that step to being great. And I think because of the other quarterbacks out there as well, I think that's another reason why I don't think he sniffs the Hall of Fame.
No, I'm just saying. Given his numbers, where he finishes career numbers makes an argument. I don't see it happening.
But nevertheless, best of luck to him in retirement. He's certainly more than earned it to ride off into the sunset, and especially last number of years living in Arizona, not too shabby. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, the finalists for the Hall of Fame class was announced this week. 15 finalists in all, and we're going to quickly go through these. I'm just going to throw a name out there. The officer and Adam Kieft, just quick yes or no, do they make it in on this ballot? We're not debating their Hall of Fame candidacy. They're finalists. They obviously deserve, in varying degrees, to get in, but do they get in on this ballot? We'll start with Ray Lewis.
I don't think we even have to do that one.
It was first on the list.
He will be 99% or higher.
He might be. Then I would say he might be. There's only been a handful of people to get 100% of the vote, and if he doesn't, I call shenanigans.
Yeah. If someone doesn't vote for him, they must be just an awful human being.
Yeah.
Brian Urlacher.
No, not this year.
Maybe sometime.
Eventually, not this year.
On name recognition and the fact that he played in Cleveland, in Chicago, not on his numbers.
If he makes it in, I wonder if his Hall of Fame bust will be of him bald or with hair, since he added that in after the fact. Long-time Colt and finished his career in Arizona, Edgerrin James.
He is an uphill battle. This year, I don't think he gets in. At some point, I think he gets in. I think he's going to be a multi-year finalist before he gets in. This year's probably not his year.
I think he stands no chance this year. But I do think he gets in. He's 12th on the rushing list.
Led the NFL rushing twice.
Everyone above him, with the exception of Adrian Peterson, who's active, who will be in, is in, and the 3 people below him are in. So I think he gets in, but definitely not this year.
Randy Moss.
Yes.
One receiver that I'm gonna save for last because I think we may have a bit of a discussion on this one. I'll move him to the end.
Randy Moss is in. He gets in this year.
Okay, another receiver that's a finalist, Isaac Bruce.
No, unfortunately, I'd like to see him get in. I don't think this is the year.
I think it's again eventually.
I think he's like an Art Monk type of guy. He's going to have to wait.
Yeah, he's a victim of guys that are around him. I mean, this year, you look at the other receivers that are up. I just think he
started at the tail end of a different era. So he doesn't have the numbers that these other guys had because he started in 94 when the game was Not you could like safeties could still take your head off, and cornerbacks.
He played a tougher brand of football.
So if he broke in '98 when Moss did, he might have a little better numbers. I don't know. I think he gets in, but not this year.
Not this year.
Over to the defensive side for a couple of different names. John Lynch.
Not this year.
No.
He's at the end of the day, I think he's going to end up being a stretch. I don't know. I think that he's still involved with the game makes a difference for him, but not again. He's probably a guy who's going to be a multi-year finalist. If he gets in, it'll be down the line.
Moving on, Brian Dawkins,
Yes.
longtime Eagle, finished in Denver.
I think he gets in this year. I do. I looked up a statistic that there's 310 total enshrinees in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Only 88 of them are defensive players. I think this is the year where they get a couple extra. I think Brian Dawkins. I think Brian Dawkins deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think this is the year he gets in.
Yeah, I agree. First off, he was the heart and soul of that Eagles secondary that went to 4 Super Bowls, and he's in a very small group of people with at least 35 interceptions and at least 20 sacks. I think he gets in. I think he gets in.
Everson Walls, longtime defensive back.
Not this year. Again, I think it's. Part of it this year. This year's going to be he's a victim of the guys around him. I think maybe down the line it's one of those things. It may have to go to the senior committee or whatever. Yeah. That may be where he gets in. I don't think it happens this year.
Ty Law,
yes,
I think he's in. 59 career interceptions. He's got 6 in the playoffs. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion.
Weren't all 6 of those against Peyton Manning?
Could be. Doesn't matter.
It felt like it.
Yeah, but he's a 59 total career, 6 in the postseason, 3 Super Bowl rings.
He was the anchor of that Patriots secondary at least, and yes.
And again, back to the
played for 14 years.
Defensive guys are lopsided right now. I think that's another reason that helps him.
This is an interesting one here because he only played from 95 to 2001, so just a 6-7 year career.
Yeah.
Jaguars offensive tackle Tony Baselli.
I think he gets in
this year.
Yes.
I think he gets in this year. He was the best tackle in the league his entire short career. It's kind of like who's the old school Dallas running back from back in the 70s that got in on the shortened career. I'm drawing a blank now.
Tony Dorsett.
Yeah, Dorsett.
It's kind of like
I didn't want
that.
to be wrong.
Yes, it's kind of like that. I think
you're just going to let me be wrong.
I'm wrong a lot.
So. Baselli was the best tackle in his career, the best tackle in the league his entire career. I think he gets in even though he had a shortened career.
Kevin Mawai, longtime center.
Not this year.
It's hard for centers.
Centers, even guards. I mean, centers, interior offensive linemen are a tough sell. They really are. But save guys who are multi-year Pro Bowlers, all-pro guys. It's a tough sell for interior guys. By the way, Tony Baselli's nickname, the Dancing Bear. That was his nickname.
That's not a nickname I'd want to have.
I think it's awesome.
I'm not sure how to take that.
He also wore the smallest pair of shoulder pads that you could find in the equipment room, which is amazing.
I'd like to see Mawai get in. I know Bill Parcells spoke really highly of him, and I think he might get in at some point. But this is not his year now.
Joe Jacoby.
No,
offensive tackle.
I think he's a victim of just being a guy on that team.
He's the Hogs. I mean,
but there's so many guys from those teams that are in the Hall of Fame, and that's part of the reason he's not in yet. I just think that they're over-giving those guys Hall of Fame spots.
There's 3 more on the list, 2 interior linemen and 1 wide receiver, but there's one that's been suggested from our Facebook Live broadcast from Michael, who asks, Morton Anderson.
He says he's the original kicker, which he might be.
Adam, can we get a kicker in the Hall of Fame? Can we get a kicker in the Hall of Fame?
If you're going to choose one right now, Morton Anderson's a good choice. I mean, there's no question. We played against.
This is killing you to say.
I'm not saying is it a good choice. I'm saying, can we get him in?
Yeah, we can get him in. I'll allow Morton Anderson.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
No, doctor.
we played him when he was still playing when I was in Cincinnati. The front page of our scouting report was always, just the basic roster with years played and where they went to college and so on. And I'm looking through the roster and I'm going through what I thought was the ages, and I get to a number that says 22. and it's years
Seasons.
played for Morton Anderson. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
I'm thinking, what does his pension look like? He's got 22
Well,
years in.
Adam Vinatieri's still going.
I know, right?
Is he first ballot when he gets it? When he
Yeah.
Well, I think it
if a
depends on
kicker-
it depends on who's there. Who's he going against?
Yeah.
I think he's in first ballot.
Yeah, if kickers can be first ballot, he's the kicker that is first ballot.
All right, back to the list here. 2 interior linemen. One of them, Steve Hutchinson, split time with Minnesota and Seattle.
He was
during
the
2000s.
most dominant guard in the league. He was the highest paid guard in the league. Again, it's a hard sell for interior lineman. He is a Hall of Famer. I don't know if this is the year because I think because Tony Baselli gets in. Again, my opinion, Tony Baselli gets in this year. I think that's what takes some of it away from Hutchinson. He is a Hall of Famer. I don't know if this is the year. I think he gets in next year, honestly.
So between the two, I think Alan Faneca has a little bit better shot.
He's the other one. Yeah, the other interior lineman. Alan Faneca.
So because I think Alan Faneca has a better shot, I don't think Steve Hutchinson makes it.
You think Faneca this year and Hutchinson next year, or do you think they're both down the line?
I could see. Well, if we're going by Faneca would be my 6th, which would be kind of a stretch. So
6 is tough.
Yeah, so maybe this year. I don't know.
We saved
again. I think they're both Hall of Famers.
I agree.
I don't know
I
if
agree.
either of them make it
Both in the
this year, but I think
all-2000s
they're
team,
both Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
We saved this guy for last because it's going to be a debate for quite a while. Terrell Owens.
He's not getting in.
No.
Does he deserve to be in? 100%. He is a Hall of Fame receiver, no question. He's not getting in because his public persona kills him, and it's not, I don't even know that's necessarily the right decision because you look at how his tenure ended when he was playing football with the teams that he played on. He was not a bad player. He didn't really do dumb stuff as far as inside the locker room. It's the public persona of Terrell Owens that keeps him out of the Hall of Fame. He's not even necessarily a jerk. It's not a Barry Bonds situation in baseball where you're a jerk. It's just the public persona of how he carried himself is still hurting him to this day.
Yeah.
He is a Hall of Fame.
There's people
he will be in the Hall of Fame.
There's people with votes who have anonymously said he won't get in. So
He
I
will.
believe him.
It's not going to happen.
That's the chicken crap move right there that they're
It's
anonymous.
crap.
Yeah.
That they won't come out and say.
Just say you don't like the guy as a person, and that's your excuse. Because as a football player, there is no question he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
It is your personal opinion. You don't like him as a person, which is not even necessarily well-founded that you don't like him as a person. But to me, it's not going to happen because the people like the anonymous voters who want to not like him as a person, but he's 100% a Hall of Famer, and he will be in.
He should be, and he will
And
be.
he better get in before he dies. He better not even – if he goes to the senior committee, it is a travesty because you're saying if you're perceived to be an idiot, we're not voting you in whether your credentials say you're deserving or not.
They'll keep him out, I think, for a couple of years just as to say, ha, we made our point.
But it's
he won't make it to the senior committee. There's no chance.
They better not.
There's
he
no
better
chance.
not. It'll be a travesty.
They'll be jerks about it for a couple of years, and he'll eventually get in. Let's move to the college game. Quite a bit to get to here in the college ranks as well. We had 2 semifinal games. Of course, the rest of the bowl season finished up, and Officer won the bowl pick contest.
I mean,
we all finished with a winning record.
Was there ever any question?
We did all finish.
Well, the difference was I picked my Chippewas and I didn't pick Coach Polly, which was a big mistake on my part.
Yeah, and Coach Polly, for the games he picked last week, and again, we want to thank Mike Polly, assistant coach at Middle Tennessee State, for joining us last week. He did finish with a winning record as well.
We all went my boy Q too, which hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad because the officiating in that game was terrible.
Yeah,
but again, you being alum, I'm sure, even though you picked against your team, I'm sure you can appreciate that the officiating in that game was awful.
Yeah, it was indeed.
Benny Snell should not have been ejected from that game. That was the joke.
In the semifinals, though, we saw 2 completely different football games, and the first one of the semifinals was an absolute barn burner. Georgia going to double overtime to take out Oklahoma. This was a classic.
One of the best college football games that I have had the pleasure of watching. To be honest,
unquestionably,
it was
amazing
amazing to watch. If you didn't watch that game, I'm sorry, you missed a great college football game.
Because the one behind it stunk up the joint for a lot of different
I
reasons.
quit watching in the third quarter.
You could go to bed during that game and you didn't miss a thing.
Right.
If you walked away from your TV for 5 minutes in that Georgia game, you missed a lot of good football. If you went to bed during the second game, you didn't miss a thing.
No. Michelle and Chubb in that game. Oh my gosh.
It's disgusting.
It's like, hand it off. They're going to get 20 yards.
Yeah, Michelle, 11 for 181 and 3 TDs. Chubb, 14 for 145 and 2 TDs.
Those two.
As a team, they averaged 9.7 yards per carry. As a team. So that includes sacks, quarterback runs, and any reverse crap play that went out of bounds.
This officer's favorite.
10 yards per play.
Reverse.
Yeah.
Double reverse pass jackass. They ran out a couple times effectively.
Oklahoma ran the reverse pass jackass for a touchdown to Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
To the jackass.
So a great game between Georgia. Find a replay if you haven't seen it, or if you just want to see great college football, go back and watch it. We talked about the other game. I don't think we sure as hell didn't see coming what Alabama did to Clemson in that game.
Didn't see it at all.
And the fact that Clemson literally could do nothing with the football again. Alabama, you look at
Alabama's defense got healthy over the last month.
Yes, they did.
It's astonishing because we all picked Clemson in that game.
And we were all confident.
Yeah, I thought it was just Clemson in a rout.
Yeah.
No, and we were all wrong on that. And I think the biggest factor was Alabama's defense got healthy and Clemson couldn't do a thing. They couldn't 177 total yards for Clemson. Just got shut down. 188 total yards for Clemson. Just got shut down by the Alabama defense.
So now the championship. Sorry to the bitter media folk out there. Shout out Danny Cannell for being butthurt about this. It's going to be an SEC title game.
SEC.
Oh, Danny Cannell. Danny Cannell's turtleneck's going to tweet you something awful.
Oh, God.
The title game in Atlanta, Alabama versus Georgia. Nick Saban has never lost to a former assistant, 11-0. I think he goes 11-1. I think Georgia wins this. That running game is too good.
They're so
good. That linebacking core is too good, and I don't think that Jalen Hurts and Damian Harris are going to be able to do enough making plays in the backfield to be able to score enough. Because Georgia's going to put points on the board.
They're going to move the ball.
As great as Alabama's defense was against Clemson, and they were phenomenal, Georgia is going to score.
Georgia's offensive weaponry is much larger than Clemson's, and again, we thought that Clemson was going to go all over Alabama. We were wrong, and I did say give Saban a month to prepare for a team, and he's going to have a pretty good shot at beating you. And
in your vagueness, yes.
But they dominated Clemson. They got a week to prepare for Georgia, and not that they haven't been doing their research before that, but they got an actual week to prepare for that game, and the way that Georgia ran the football against Oklahoma, who has a pretty decent defense, just dominated them at the line of scrimmage, 10 yards per carry. I just think that they're, as good as Alabama's defense looked, they can find creases and they can score points, and that's, and if you can control the ball with the run game against a team like Alabama, and their front seven, Georgia's front seven is still pretty good, and they have two of the best linebackers in college football. And under center for Alabama, Hurts is just not a very good quarterback. I agree. I think this is the first time Saban loses to an assistant. I think Kirby Smart gets the better one. I think the Georgia Bulldogs win.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Georgia is able to move the ball, unlike Clemson. I think Georgia brings something that Alabama hasn't seen all year. And like you said, he's not getting a month to prepare. I think it's going to be close, and I'm a little gun shy because I almost want to pick Alabama now, but I think I got to go with Georgia.
The amazing thing though about Alabama, they are playing in their 6th championship in 9 years. How nuts is that?
Yeah, going for their 5th.
Yeah, 5th title,
winning their 5th in 9 years.
Winning their 5th in 9 years. So I mean,
in this day and age of college football, is unheard of. I don't think you'll ever see a run like the one that Alabama's still on it. I mean, they're still on this run.
It's not stopping until Saban leaves.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see another run like this ever again. You'll never see a team that is in the conversation for national titles every season like Alabama is right now.
Keep an eye on one thing, though. We've noticed this, too, with Alabama. If you've been watching them over the last number of years in these late season semifinal, conference championship, national championship games, they are prone to some missed kicks. Keep an eye on that. We saw one.
Always good to have some kickers screw some shit up for you.
And Alabama's had a history of that, so keep an eye on that.
And Georgia's second or special teams in general they were on point in that last game. They were probably the difference maker against Oklahoma.
And shout out Rodrigo Blankenship, Hot Rod, kicking a 55-yarder in the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl record, his career long. That was pretty awesome. And again, kind of a miscue by Oklahoma to set that up, but that really kind of turned the tide in that game. They were down 17 points, and they get a 55-yard field goal to end the first half. Again, that Rose Bowl game, the highest scoring Rose Bowl game ever. The first overtime in college football playoffs, and it was well worth the price of admission.
Yeah, it certainly was. So Alabama, Georgia for the national championship. Meanwhile, down in Orlando, Central Florida is claiming no. The national championship belongs to us. We went undefeated, so they are claiming a national title this year. They're going to hang up a banner. And the one thing I will say, they're going all out for it. They're going to pay Scott Frost his $200,000 contractual bonus for winning a national title.
I love it.
If you're
they beat the team that beat both teams in the championship. So
and sorry to Coach Polly, you can't claim a pseudo national title.
We were rooting
for it. Yeah.
We were looking out for you, Coach. Bums. We picked Clemson too. We were trying to get you in there. It didn't work out for you.
But still, if you're going to go all out, if you're Central Florida, go all the hell out.
Do it.
Pay them all out.
And here's the people. People forget, and you watch social media, and as soon as they would announce that UCF was going to do this, they were like, it's crap. They're not even playing for it. You go back in history and you look at all the teams that have claimed national championships that weren't they were number one in some poll that doesn't even exist anymore, and they claim that as a national championship. Absolutely, UCF, claim a national championship. You're the only undefeated team in Division I football. You beat the team that beat both of the teams playing for the championship. Claim it. 100%. You deserve it.
Own it.
You went undefeated. Everyone said, they didn't play a hard enough schedule. They beat everybody who got put in front of them,
right?
Including the second best team in the SEC, who beat both of the teams playing for that championship. Claim it. Give the bonuses. Put up the banner. I will come down and support it. I don't even care. And let's not forget, their best player on defense has one friggin' hand.
Oh my gosh,
it's amazing.
And he plays lights out.
You are just part of this feel good story that is the UCF Knights. Scott Frost being able to come back, to be able to coach the team. Shaquem Griffin playing with one hand.
He was in on every play.
11.5 tackles, 3 TFLs, 1.5 sacks, defensive MVP of the game against an Auburn team whose their offensive line, some people thought was one of the best offensive lines in college football. And their defense dominated their offensive line. Right. 6 sacks. They didn't even give up 6 sacks since the first game of the season. They gave up 11. 6 sacks in one game to a UCF team that everybody thought had no shot in the game, including everybody sitting in this room, because everybody in this room picked Auburn to win this game. And it was crap because we should have believed in them.
Let that go.
We all wanted UCF to win.
I know.
We just picked with our head. It's awesome.
It
is the best.
Coach Polly picked UCF, didn't he?
He did, because that was group of 5.
Yeah. Again, it's the feel.
Coach Polly, by the way, also picked Alabama and Georgia to meet in the title game.
Good for him.
And he picked Georgia to win it. So
winner. It's the best story in college football this year. The whole thing surrounding that team, Scott Frost being able to come back, Shaquem Griffin.
Of all the positions to play with one hand, linebacker, the whole wrap up and grab and oh my God, and he does.
It's amazing.
He takes on blockers and man,
it's awesome.
Yes. Shaquem Griffin, be our friend.
Yes. Add us on the Twitter. We'll add you. Great speech after the game in the locker room. By the way, that was awesome. Everything that you get, you deserve, kid, because you're an amazing person.
Other bowl action sees Navy absolutely demolish Virginia 49-7. Virginia returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Ball game was over after that. Navy held the ball for 42 minutes. Of course, I was disappointed. They threw one pass in the game. They did wear the awesome alternate uniforms again, which they wore in the Army-Navy game.
And 452 yards rushing. All on the ground. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, you're pulling for the armed forces no matter what. Navy's rushing for 452 to Virginia's 175. It's awesome.
I'm not a big fan of the triple option offense, but I will watch it all day when it comes to the military academies.
You put the military academies on the field, and I will watch that offense all day long.
Khaki Pants blows another chance to do something nice for his school, and also
try to make his legacy worth something.
And also would have allowed the Big Ten to go undefeated in bowl play. Michigan turns it over 5 times in the second half alone and loses to South Carolina.
Blows a double-digit lead.
Yeah, blows a 16-point lead.
Can't find a quarterback. Got to put somebody under center there in Ann Arbor, and they can't do it.
He can't develop him, so he continues.
He's an offensive guru.
He can't develop him, and now he's got shape.
Don't you talk bad about the Wolverines. They are the best team in college football, says everybody who buys all their crap at Walmart. Bunch of bums.
That's why
Walmart Wolverines, go back to where you came from.
Walmart
Your team is
Wolverines.
terrible. Find yourself a quarterback.
Hashtag
and you
Walmart
might
Wolverines.
Hashtag Walmart Wolverines.
Well, they're getting one next year, and it's not a recruit; it's a transfer in Shea Patterson from Ole Miss.
Yeah, they keep losing guys out. They lost another tackle to my Chippewas.
Once again,
one of the highly touted offensive tackles.
Can't develop them, so
They
get them from
can't do
other
it.
schools.
They can't do it.
Elsewhere, Notre Dame scores late to beat LSU, and what we all thought was going to be a low-scoring game in that one, it went up 21-17. I thought the score would be lower than that. But, hey, there you go.
Not enough red-faced Brian Kelly, but they pulled it off.
Saquon Barkley and his college swan song goes bonkers. Penn State had to hold on in that game. They had a 3-touchdown lead at one point. Wound up defeating Washington 35-28. Barkley should be a pretty darn high draft pick.
Yeah, it'd be all right.
He now has Jay-Z as his agent.
I don't think Jay-Z's actually making the phone calls, but Jay-Z's agency is making the phone calls.
Close enough. Good for him. And also in the bowl season, we threw this in just because we think it's funny.
Hilarious.
The Miami Hurricanes playing at home go down to the Wisconsin Badgers. And, of course, if you see the video clip out there, the coach for Wisconsin covers his face and says, turnover chain, my blankety blank.
Which is awesome. They went into Miami. They beat Miami, who, everybody claimed that Wisconsin wasn't as good as they thought, and Miami was just a victim of cold weather game in Pittsburgh, and Clemson was going to win the national title. Turns out Miami's probably who we thought they were, and Wisconsin's a little better football team.
Who we thought they were.
Exactly. And we let them off the hook. But maybe Wisconsin was a better football team than people gave them credit for.
We got
Miami,
a few of those good coach quotes in here.
Miami wasn't nearly as good as people thought they were.
With that wraps up kind of the broad spectrum of college football. But we're not finished with college football.
No, because we're going to bring up people who aren't as good as you thought they were. Everybody knows they're not as good as you thought.
We've this last segment here, we've been kind of heavy in the NFL spectrum of late because the college kickers have kind of done what they normally should do these last few weeks.
Make field goals.
It didn't happen this week, and we can finally have. We're once again an all-college edition. Go ahead, Eric, crack it open. There it is.
Get this one ready.
In celebration because
up.
you've got a few good ones here. And
great ones.
Right now, here is Mr. Adam Kieft with his Fumblegate Fatty Kicker of the Week.
Once again, don't forget about the trophy. We got a wonderful trophy here in the middle.
Yes.
We're going to be awarding it this week. But
great trophy. It cost me $12.
Yeah, we got 3 great ones this week. First of all, give a shout out to my fellow Rockford Ram alumni, Quinn Norton. We went to the same high school. Figure this one out. Quinn Norton. He goes with the crotch grab, the pre-halftime crotch grab. He kicks a field goal right before halftime. I think it was a 46, 47-yard. It was a pretty good field goal. He had 4 of them in the game. He's a very good kicker. He's the number 1 kicker coming out of high school.
But if you're gonna do the crotch grab,
if you're gonna do the crotch grab, you might want to be a little more confident in your team because the crotch grab pre-halftime in a game you end up losing, it's a bad look. Sorry, Quinn. I love you as a fellow Ram, but you gotta lay off the crotch grabs. And don't forget, as much as we're Ram alumni, you're still a kicker. Leave the crotch grabs at home. Even offensive linemen don't do crotch grabs. Get a different move. Crotch grabs aren't the look for kickers. Second honorable mention, we got Jet Toner, which is on the spectrum of great football names. That's a good football name, Jet Toner. Stanford's kicker. This is a 52-yarder, little long, but they end up losing by 2 points to TCU. Ooh, tough one. Can't miss a 52-yarder and then end up losing by 2 and not get featured on the Fumblegate Fatty Kicker of the Week. But this week's winner, this is a friggin' runaway. And if you've listened to the show before, I don't think we've had anybody miss 4. We had Paulie Furcano miss 3. I don't think we've had anybody miss 4 yet. But this week's winner, he outdid everybody. He missed 4. We got Dominic Eberle out of Utah State. And again, this is a game we picked. We all picked this game. I think the officers only picked it correctly. Is that right?
No, I picked New Mexico State.
Oh,
The officer picked Utah State.
Yeah, he's.
Oh, you was the one that got it wrong.
Yeah.
Never mind. I must have picked it right too. But we all picked this game
you and I knew
with no knowledge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, clearly.
No knowledge, no research at all. We picked
totally
this game
saw this coming
without content. The Utah State ends up losing to New Mexico State in overtime. Why is this a giant issue? Because Dominic Eberle missed 4 field goals in this game, folks. So this is a game that was tied at the end of the regulation. During regulation, he missed from 44, 49, and 48. And you say, oh, that's kind of a long field goal. Well, his career long is all outside of that range. So they're all 3 makeable field goals for his leg. Misses all 3 of those. Then they go to overtime, and this is when it gets even
Which they
better.
shouldn't have even been in overtime.
Shouldn't even been in overtime. Make 1 out of the first 3, and you're not even in overtime. But this is when it gets fun. You go to overtime, right? And your team, you get the ball first.
on the 25-yard line.
On the 25-yard line, and they drive it down to the 2. And he misses from 29 yards. No, I'm sorry, not the 2. I apologize. From the 12. He misses from 29 yards. Just a shade outside of field.
I mean, that's inside of an NFL extra point.
And the very next play, New Mexico State took the ball and scored.
Yep. 29 yards. So he misses 4 field goals to lose the game in overtime. Any one of the 3 in regulation win the game. Make the one in overtime, and you give your team a fighting chance. But 4 missed field goals, and for that reason, Dominic Eberle of Utah State, you are this week's winner of the Fumblegate Fatty Kicker of the Week. Don't miss more 4 field goals. You're a bum. I hope you lose your job. I don't even know if you're a senior or not, but if you aren't and you still kick next year, you really might want to think about a different profession because kicking ain't your deal. Bum.
So you'll get a certificate tweeted out to you, Dominique. I don't know if he's on the Twitter or not, but we can send it to the Utah State Twitter.
He's probably, if he is, he's probably private right now because I wouldn't have my shit public after missing 4 field goals. That's just bad. I don't think we featured anybody that's missed 4. I know
we'll have to go back and check. But
I know Paulie missed 3, but I don't remember him missing 4.
Far be from me, and this is your decision, of course. He's got to be in the running for the Fumblegate Fatty Kicker of the Year.
No, he's definitely going to be in the discussion. You miss 4 in one game in a game that goes to overtime, you're going to be in the discussion. It's gonna be a tough sell to get you out of that. And you did it at the end of the season, like we see with the college football playoffs. Losing early is okay. Losing late leaves you in the voters' minds. Right now, 4 field goals in bowl season leaves you in the voters' minds.
So Dominic Eberle, Utah State. Oh boy. 2
for 6. Can't do it.
That's not good.
That's real bad.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
He probably could get a job in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. Zane Gonzalez is up there missing 2 out of 4, right?
Right. Yeah, easy.
Didn't they bring in Roberto Aguayo to
They tried. He couldn't even beat out the worst kicker in the league this year. But then again, this is the Cleveland Browns we're talking about. They're having a parade this week, so
yeah,
should be a good time.
Check that out, by the way. And we haven't contact the people that run that, by the way. Just watch it for the hell of it. This Saturday, January the 6th, BrownsParade.com. I think they're broadcasting it on there.
And more than anything, as much as we make fun of the Browns, that parade has raised thousands of dollars for local charities, which is awesome. It's not just purely a making fun of the Browns. We are not sponsoring this. This is actually for actual good in the community.
The organizers of it are not taking a dime from the donations and the money they've raised for this to cover like security and things like that need to happen at that place. And with that stuff, like I said, they are making charitable donations, so we do credit them for that. We still have a lot to get to with the college football season and the playoffs in the NFL and whatnot. And we'll do that so here in the coming weeks. And, of course,
real quick.
Yeah.
Picking the FCS champion. Who we got?
Bison.
No, you got North Dakota State.
The Bison.
James Madison, North Dakota State. Who you got?
James Madison.
No, I'm taking the Bison, too. I'm not. James Madison beat him last year. I got the Bison this year.
We'll see how that works out, and we'll talk about that next week. And right now, that is going to wrap it up for this week of the Fumblegate Podcast. We appreciate everyone listening on all the platforms, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and also those that tune in every week on the Facebook Live broadcast. Follow us on the Facebook at Fumblegate, also the Twitter at Fumblegate. Gentlemen, your tweeters, please.
Yeah, you can see it right there, FGP Cop.
Fumblegate Fatty.
Fumblegate Podcast at gmail.com. And with that, we will see you next week here on the Fumblegate Podcast.
Post-game show. Any post-game questions today? Anybody got anything for us?
And welcome into the post-show game.
Post-game,
You screwed me up with that.
Post-game, post-show game.
Post-game show day. Post-day show time.
And I've been drinking water because my throat's been a disaster for 2 weeks.
This will make your throat feel better.
I will. Give me.
No.
I got some honey upstairs.
No.
It'll burn it right out.
Yeah.
I've got the throat stuff going on, and that's why I'm having a nice little glass of whiskey.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. Hashtag somebody sent you whiskey.
They didn't send it, but I'll take it.
It's
close enough. We do thank everyone who has commented during the broadcast here. We greatly do appreciate that. Probably might be our most interactive one as of yet.
It was.
And I will
far.
say that there's we don't get all the comments because I log in on my phone and
I had to do that
on
too.
the computer, and
You got to refresh it quite a bit.
yeah, and you don't see them all.
Yeah.
So if we missed your stuff, sorry, that's Facebook's fault.
Some of the names on there. Michael, I know you were involved there from the Northeast Ohio area. We greatly appreciate you tuning in there. It's been good working with you, buddy, when we worked together calling baseball. Chris, Rich, Paul. Levi Jones watching and
Former
commenting.
Cincinnati Bengals. Levi.
Former
That's my
offensive tackle there that kept
We've
kept
arrived.
on the bench.
My guy. Hey, we're getting former NFLers tuning in.
It wasn't. Levi was left tackle. That was
A tackle.
No,
it doesn't matter.
No,
You played left tackle.
I was the heir apparent. I was
See?
the heir apparent at one point.
to Levi, or I thought you
Yeah.
were a right tackle.
I was a right tackle because of my
You were the heir apparent
amazing
to Willie, right?
Because my
amazing
amazing
footwork.
40 time. And then at one point during training camp, Coach Alexander said, "Why don't you try left tackle?" And I went over and went against Jumpy.
And you're like, wait, hold on, this hand, I can't put this hand down.
No, I prefer left tackle. That's what I put my hand down and I stoned Jumpy on a 1-on-1 pass rush, and the rest was history. But then I blew my knee out, and then you got Andrew Whitworth, so you got the second best Bengals offensive lineman of all time because of me. So
because
again,
you're
the
going to
rest
take
is
that to
history.
the
You're
bank.
welcome.
You're going to take that with you.
Actually, but they drafted him as a guard.
They did because they thought I might actually be healthy. or something.
He was first ballot Hall of Fame guard if he stayed there. We've talked about that.
Absolutely.
Holy hell, was he?
Who's this?
Whitworth.
Oh, in question.
His path to the Pro Bowl is so much faster at guard.
Yes.
And he's a 7, 8, 9 time first time Pro Bowler.
Yes.
Rather than being an alternate.
Right.
And
You would have.
it's-
Yes.
When you're in the same division,
Thanks a lot, Joe Thomas.
When he did play guard, like you noticed him, and you don't always notice linemen.
Dude, his
notice
feet for as big as he was. No, granted, now he's gotten older and he's not quite as quick at pulling and stuff like that.
Hey, his feet don't shrink when he gets older.
No, just like
but Adam's hands do.
the quickness he had at guard
Yeah,
when
it's
he was a younger kid. He was so quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Yes, and
unfortunately
big
you
and-
play in the same division as Joe Thomas, and that's going to get you.
Right.
It really, at the end of the day, is what hurts him more than anything.
So we are keeping touch with some of these guys. Adam Kieft is keeping touch with some of his former teammates here. So hopefully, maybe I'll actually try and get them on here on the show. Whether it be
We got a lot of off season to fill before
if they're
the
in the
draft.
Cincinnati area, we'll try and get them on here. If not, we'll see if we can have them join us by phone as well. So that way,
We got to try and get the boss on. That's what we got to get.
Bruce?
Levi gave
Bruce
us a-
Springsteen?
No, the boss.
Dude, if we
Mike-
could get Bruce Springsteen on, that would be
We'll take
awesome.
him. We'll take him.
Mike Brown.
Big Bobby Williams.
Oh yeah,
We got
that
to
would
get the
be
boss.
awesome.
What's
Yeah.
he up to?
Already. He's he does.
Is he coaching high school?
No, this last year he was doing some pre-draft stuff with the guys up in Ignition here in Cincinnati area.
Yeah, put in a word.
What about
Gotta get the boss.
What about one guy that I know I believe is still local, old Dahani.
He's doing TV work.
Yeah,
He's still doing TV.
Yeah, he's still doing something.
He's
Travel
doing some-
channel stuff.
yeah, I think he's
But
doing some new show.
he has businesses in the area.
He does.
Yeah, I don't talk about a guy who really translated to the second career really well. But
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I walked by him the other day on the street, and we both kind of paused and looked at each other like we recognized each other, and then we couldn't put it together fast enough, and we just kept walking.
So once you were passing, it was awkward. If
Yeah.
yeah.
So I turned around, and I was like, "That was Dahani," because he was only here for 2 seasons while I was here, and again, I spent most of my
Why
time
didn't you
with
turn
him.
around and like a creep and yell, "Donnie!"
And we run back to each other in
Right,
slow
slow
motion.
motion.
Hey, what's up, brother? I missed you too. We could have him on. The boss, Scott Kuster, is still in town. He's a Cincinnati guy. He's still in town.
Yes.
We get Levi. He wasn't that we unfortunately.
We need to get Levi to phone in.
You set
That'd
the bar
be great.
high though when you said the boss. I was hoping Springsteen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to get all of them. But anybody out there in the social media network, if you can get the boss, you get the boss. What up, Shaq? Hey, Shaq, are you really listening? And you just clicked on it and then went away. One of my former players, Justin Shaq.
How can you tell if somebody joined?
Because you watched it on the Facebook.
No. I don't have that. That doesn't show up on my stuff.
It showed up on mine, but
I see when people talk.
I keep refreshing from my my
No,
mobile
mine
device.
shows it the whole time because it popped up when I
have it to
first
refresh a lot.
joined. I popped it. Can you do the thumbs up like this? Can you like spam the thumbs up like I can?
See, now I'm getting that, but I'm not getting the comments. Oh well,
Anyway,
that's all right.
well, we dwindled. I think we dwindled our time here on the Facebook Live. Looks like
Yeah.
we don't have a whole lot.
Yeah,
of
we're
people
gonna
left.
we're gonna call it a night here. Of course, if you have any questions for us, with any of the three of us, or perhaps for Mr. Adam Kieft since he played for the Bengals, drop us a line on the Facebook and the Twitter. You can see right down there the banners, our Facebook and Twitter handles. Of course, you're on the Facebook, so you know where we're at on Facebook. But find us on Twitter there. Send us questions there. I think you want to say something there, officer.
Well, I think we owe somebody a shout out on another podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna give a shout out to the one of my former coaches, Coach Blevins. He's been working on his podcast.
Yeah, we do appreciate.
Keeps changing up his name a little bit.
He gives us a shout out.
He gives us a shout out on his podcast. He keeps changing up the name on his. He didn't join the show tonight though. I'm not sure what's going on.
Is it Blevins
Nation podcast?
Blevins Nation podcast. Give him a shout.
Go ahead and give him a listen if
Give
you
him a
get a
listen
chance.
after you listen to us.
Yep, he's got a pretty good thing going over there. He does a lot of rock music stuff too. So if you guys are into music or football, give him a listen over there.
But as a reminder before we close off here, this video will be up on the Fumblegate YouTube channel probably sometime tomorrow morning or so. So if you want to go back and watch some of the past episodes we've done here on Facebook Live, that is available via YouTube here coming soon. So with that, I think we're going to close it out for the night. For Kieft and the officer, I'm Jason. Hit us up on the social media stuff. You see the banner at the bottom. And we'll be tuned in for you over the next week and all the social media stuff. We'll all be tweeting stuff. And every once in a while, we'll post a blog type status on on the Fumblegate page just to keep you guys engaged out there during the week as well. So if you have something, again, you want us to talk about, a suggestion for something maybe you'd like one of us to write about, let us know here on Facebook and the Twitter as well. And with that,
Stay classy, and thanks for stopping by.
I can't think of a better way to sign it off.
Don't go to Cleveland.
Unless it's to go to the parade.
Yes, then go to Cleveland.
Big circles. Big circles. We'll see you next week.